thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I am so excited to having this conversation with you because I've had the pleasure of working with you when I was at Newlink a couple of years back. And I've witnessed, the brilliance behind every project that you've led. And I feel especially honored because I also had the opportunity to work closely with you for what I would like to say one of my favorite projects throughout my professional career, which was the MSC Cruises Super Choral Play campaign that we did for Super Bowl when that was in Miami. So I wanted to ask you, like looking back, what do you remember most about that project, and what do you think made it unique from a digital marketing perspective?
Before I answer that, I just want to say I'm super pleased to be speaking with you. And I also love this opportunity to reconnect. It was so amazing to work with you a couple years back. So I was really pleased to get this call and to be able to help you with this. So that said, really one of the things I love the most about Super Choral Play was how it really brought Newlink together across many different fields. So this project was amazing because it really integrated strategy, creativity, execution, everything hand in hand across multiple disciplines. So we involved PR, influencer marketing, social media, digital, even music production, because we ended up producing our own music video. So we weren't really just promoting a message, it was really more of a movement. So everything that we did through the strategy and campaign was really all supporting purpose, which is an interesting topic that we're always talking about nowadays. It's of course part of our DNA at Newlink. So this campaign was extremely successful. I remember we reached over 9.1 million views on YouTube specifically. So I think it was really coming together as a team with all the knowledge of different expertises that really made it really special for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I must admit that my favorite part was the music video for sure. Although I wasn't able to go because of my passport, but that was my
Oh
favorite
no.
campaign. So I know you mentioned Newlink, and I know that you guys have worked with big brands, and especially you've worked with Consentino, you've worked with Paramount, with Red Cross, with Coca-Cola, MasterCard, and then some other local brands that are huge here, like Brickell City Center, Swire Properties, just to name a few. So I wanted to ask you, what's been one of your most challenging yet rewarding marketing projects, and what did you learn from them?
So I've been fortunate to work and lead a lot of really interesting projects. So that's a really hard question to answer. But I think the ones that I enjoy the most, it's kind of a two-part answer, right? So the first is the ones that have made me grow, right? And you learn something different from each project all the time. But really the ones that have helped me grow in a completely different space, in a completely different industry that sometimes you know nothing of. And you come in and all of a sudden you're learning about surfaces and stone. And it's like, what? What do I know about this? And then whenever you get a seat at the table with an incredible company that trusts in you and they believe in you as a consultant and as a partner, that's really the most exciting there, right? But really, if I'm honest, when I look back at my projects, what I remember most is not really the work, but more the people that worked with me or that I worked with at the time. Because really, the best results always happen when you have the right team. So I think that's really important, right? And that's really what has made my favorite projects what they are today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I totally agree with you. And now I want to switch gears a little and let's talk about digital marketing and social media strategy. And I wanted to ask you, what do you see as the biggest shifts in digital marketing and social media strategies for this year?
So there's a lot of chit chatter, of course, about like what's trending and what's coming and what does the future hold, right? But I think one of the main things is really that shift that we're seeing from broadcasting to belonging. So we're no longer just creating content, but we're really creating communities, right? So personalization is very important, especially at scale, which is tricky. People nowadays really expect brands not only to understand them, but to also speak the language, right? So basically there's a lot of reports right now that highlight this, and it's all about community building. How do we connect with these niche communities and really make sure that we are part of them and not just speaking to them, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, total sense. And with that in mind, and also with so many brands that are currently competing for attention online and even offline, what do you think are the key ingredients of a successful digital marketing strategy today?
I think the main thing is really engagement. but not engagement that just kind of checks the box, like we did it because we had to and it connected, but really engagement that's effective needs to be creative, it needs to be consistent, and most importantly, it needs to be authentic. So there's so much content nowadays. There's an oversaturation. Everywhere we go, everyone's posting, 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 but what people are really looking for is realness. So that authenticity connected with the engagement is really what's gonna make brands and organizations really stand out in this crowded market.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned engagement because I mean, I totally agree with you. Social media is not just about engagement, it's also a business engine. So how should brands, align their social media efforts with actual business growth and and revenue generation?
So I think what's really important is to start at the right place.
Mhm.
So in years back, social media used to be seen as what I always say, a pretty magazine, right? So just a place to have pretty pictures and pretty videos and make sure you're looking attractive and you have a nice color scheme in the grid and so on. But really, what we've been really focusing on in the past couple of years is what we call social to business strategy. And it basically stems from drafting your strategy in a way that's ultimately connected to the business. So it starts by talking to the right people. So you need to talk not only to marketing and comms, but you need to talk to a product, to the commercial arm, to all sorts of different stakeholders that have a real picture of the business. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And that's when you can come in as a consultant and understanding those pain points, you can really come up with creative solutions that will impact the bottom line. Otherwise, you're really just planning content, right? And that's ultimately very superficial and might not really yield the results that you're looking for. So I would say definitely starting with the right strategy and the right approach that's really more business driven. And then, of course, you evolve that into a beautiful creative strategy that communicates everything that you just addressed.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned choosing the right people, and I want to go back to the Super Coral Play campaign that we did. We leverage influencers, interactive content, sustainability messaging. So, what role do you see influencer partnerships and purpose-driven content playing in today's marketing landscape?
So influencers are very valuable, but I think the main shift has been that it's not about reach anymore, which is what we used to talk about, the big scale, the big reach, but it's more about resonance. So consumers are more savvy than ever, and immediately they can spot anything that's not authentic, and that's not what anyone wants, right? So the sweet spot is really when influencers become these co-creators, but they really draft messages that are based on purpose.
Mhm.
So actually recently Edelman, that's obviously a very well-known consultant, they published their barometer. That's this tool they always do for trust and other important factors. And they validated that people really are most likely to engage and connect when a brand is aligned with a purpose, right? And this is super aligned to what we believe at Newlink about purpose-driven everything pretty much. So really, it's so important to have that component of influencers, but always connecting it with purpose and through authentic
Yeah. And in relation to that, I've heard that many entrepreneurs are kind of struggling with the content overload. And I wanted to ask you, how can businesses create a scalable yet effective content strategy without burning out?
Yeah, I would say start small and be strategic. So really think about, I like to call these content formulas, but they're really just frameworks that you can leverage when you develop one bigger piece of content and you can convert that into many other pieces. So for example, if you know you only have a couple of hours in your month to dedicate to marketing and social media, you can start with just doing, let's say, a blog post, right? So something a little bit more lengthy that might require a little bit more time, but will give you more legs. So you can then take that post and you can plan that to be a series of reels, a series of posts, and so forth. So really making the most out of that one good content, focusing on quality over quantity, will give it more legs to be extended and to not only last a day. So really try to create things that have a story behind and it's not just a one-off. And that's going to help a lot, particularly at that stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to go back to the client portfolio that we were mentioning that you've worked with in the past. And I wanted to ask you if you could share, an example of a brand that effectively leveraged social media innovation to drive significant impact.
Yes, absolutely. I would say Cosentino is a great example of this. So we've worked with them for over 8, 9 years. And what started really as a social media program has evolved into a full-blown digital partnership right now. And really, since we've been working together, and this is by all means teamwork between the Cosentino team and ourselves. So since then, their audience has grown significantly year over year. Their positioning as industry leaders is stronger than ever. And we've also built real engagement with architects, designers, and end users that are their main consumers and stakeholders. So it's been really incredibly rewarding to be part of their transformation. And it's really a testament what that long-term collaboration can do, like really working closely as partners and not just as executors.
Yeah. And now I want to switch gears again and I want to talk about innovation and one of my favorite topics, which is AI in marketing. Um, I feel like you've been at the forefront of disruptive digital strategies. So I wanted to ask you, what roles do you see AI playing in digital marketing and social media innovation in the next few years?
So I would say AI and all this innovation is not just the future, right? It's already shaping the present. So from predictive analytics to smarter content creation, it's really just helping us work faster and smarter. But the key really is that AI is a tool, right? It's not a strategy. So the magic really happens when the human creativity and the machine learning work together. So it's really important to master these skills to be able to leverage these tools that are available to us in the market, because otherwise we're not going to get to a great place, right? But instead is having that perfect combo that's going to be the most effective.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned, that AI is not the strategy, but is a tool. Because I feel like, there's often a concern that AI-driven marketing might lose authenticity. So I wanted to ask you, how can brands strike the right balance, between automation and maintaining, a genuine connection with their audiences?
Yeah, so it's a great question because really AI can draft, schedule, even personalize, right? But it can't feel. So that's where we come in as humans, right? So the brands that will win in the space is the ones that use AI to enhance their creativity, but not to replace it. So you still need the human element to tell the story that people will care about. AI won't give you that. But definitely it'll help you enhance what you're doing and make it more effective. So I would say it's really a combination of like leveraging and working what the tool offers, which is amazing, and you absolutely need to if you're not. But leveraging and combining that with, the human element, creativity, and storytelling that you're really not going to get at the same quality from the machine.
Mm-hmm. And what emerging platforms or tools do you think marketers and brands should start paying attention to now? Or your favorite one, if you.
Well, I think the space changes really fast. So my answer to this question, and I get it quite a lot, is that the best tool is really the one that works for your business because there's so many. Right now there's a lot of praise and noise around X, OpenAI, Gemini, right? There's so many options really, but once you go into content creation, video editing, there's just a surplus. So I would really say the best tools are the ones that work for you. So make sure you understand what you want to use AI for and then find the one that's best rated and that really addresses your needs for that particular purpose.
Mm-hmm. And, I've been thinking since you mentioned the importance of teamwork at the beginning of our conversation. And I wanted to ask you, you've built and led high-performing teams, eyewitnesses from close. And I
Thank you.
wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to marketing leaders about building and scaling a strong digital marketing team?
What I would say is that your team is your greatest asset. It's more important than the tools, than the process. So, really investing in building a culture where your team feels empowered, they feel supported, and they feel valued is extremely important. And that's really where the magic's going to happen. So, I would say invest in mentorship, celebrate the wins, and really never underestimate the power of trust and building good relationships with your team.
Awesome. I truly love that because I also believe in that teamwork makes the dream work as
Yeah.
they say. Um, and now I wanted to ask you, about data-driven decision making. How can brands leverage analytics to fine-tune their digital strategies without getting too overwhelmed?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to get overwhelmed too quickly, which can happen, certainly start by identifying 3 or 5 KPIs that are going to be your most important goals and make sure that you're tracking those properly, right? And then as you feel more comfortable tracking that specific set of KPIs, then you can start looking at deeper insights and analytics. And again, AI will come back to this also because there's so many amazing data analysis tools that you can integrate to your current processes and analysis. So just to take a baby step, start small, define a couple that are the most relevant for you. And then based on that, you'll comfortably start expanding and, going into the wider space of data and analytics.
Yeah, and I love that advice about starting small because I also feel like there are many entrepreneurs and small businesses that do have a limited budget.
Mhm.
So, what are some high impacts, low cost digital marketing strategies that can still drive great results for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say if you're going to invest in anything, invest in strategy.
Okay.
Because if you have a clear roadmap of what you're trying to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, everything else will kind of fall in its place, as opposed to just starting to execute randomly without a clear, strategy in place. So that would be the number one most important. And then as far as tactics, I mean, there's a lot that can be done. You can do content marketing. You can start posting even proactively on social media at the rhythm that your business allows, right? And based on the tools that you have also, and just really community building. So these are low cost, high paying tactics that you can do, but they really pay off in the long run.
Awesome. And before we finish our conversation, I have three more questions. I wanted to ask you, if you could give one piece of marketing advice to entrepreneurs and brands, who are trying to thrive in the digital space, what would that be?
Hmm. I would say take it one day at a time, right? There's so much going on in the digital space. There's so many news, so many changes. And the one true way to become very experienced is to live it and be in it and breathe it 24/7. So if you come in wanting to know it all and wanting to change it all, it's just going to be a lot. So take it a day at a time, absorb, learn, use it, right? And really just assess what you're doing, right? Because ultimately, this is all about human engagement and human connection. So as you use it as a user, like understand the channels, understand what you're doing in those channels, what kind of content feels appropriate to receive in that type of channel, right? And all of that will help you fuse your strategies and really inform them with more relevant information.
Thank you. And what excites you most about the future of digital marketing and the evolving role of education in the industry?
Huh. So, I mean, what's the most exciting is that nothing is written, right? Like nobody has done this before. So working in this field is just really exciting and nerve-wracking in that sense, right? Because we're writing story day by day, we're figuring things out on the moment. And I think that's just, keeping ourselves in our toes is always a good thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And my last question for you, I wanted to ask you, how can our audience connect with you and with Leo and with Newlink in order to learn more about what you guys do?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm also very happy to give you my email later on that we could share or post along with this video. But I'll say I would love to connect with anyone who's interested in exploring opportunities, getting advice, even a mentorship. I've been lucky to have several mentors throughout my career so far, and I would love to pay it forward. So I'm super happy to be available and to support, and just grateful that we had this time to speak and reconnect after so many years.
Thank you so much, Nai. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy about this conversation. And I'm so proud of everything that you've done and, what Newlink continues to do. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mish. Nice to see you.
Nice seeing you. Take care.
Bye.